you, now I'm going to call the people for the first round table about national and international institution and climate change education. So please, yes, thank you, Jun. Jun Morohashi, come. Thank you. I'm going to introduce just afterwards. Coralie Noël, thank you. Jun, you can just sit just here next to me if you want. Coralie then, thank you. And then I will call, but he wouldn't come, the Professor Musa Garba Maitafsir, because we tried to call him a few times, but there's no answer. So what we're going to do, I think, we've got two solutions. Either we're going to talk anyway. We've got many things to say each other. I think I'll ask a few questions to David Wilgenbus from the Office for Climate Education, because I'm sure you'll be able to represent many countries. And there wasn't any questions planned with the room for this round table, but because we haven't got a third panelist, I'm sure I would ask you questions. And because she's arriving now, I wanted to welcome Catherine Mataha, because Catherine is coming from Kenya, and she was planned as a panelist first in this round table. She didn't have the visa, so she was disqualified, let's say. And someone from Nigeria was qualified, but it doesn't show up. Okay. And Catherine, we're going just to let her rest a little. She just arrived from Kenya. Thank you. So we'll just ask you a question about your countries just afterwards. So thank you. Maybe it's a bit hot here. Do you mind if we just maybe open the windows? Yep. I thought it was a good idea. Can I let people just open the windows for me? Yes. Jean? Okay, so again, 45 minutes and then coffee break, okay? So don't worry, you'll be able just to go on the terrace. So during this roundtable, we'll try to define what national and international institutions are doing and can do to promote climate change education. First, we'll have Jun Morohashi. Jun has worked for UNESCO for long years in Paris, Haiti and Thailand, and she's now Chief of Section in charge of Education for Sustainable Development at UNESCO headquarters in Paris. So first, I'll leave you to Jun will highlight where we stand with climate change education, based on a few surveys carried by UNESCO, and will detail some of the key elements to be considered in developing climate change education. Just a last thing before you start, Jun. All this content that you've got on the screens, the slides you have from Sophie and the slide from Eric will be then available at the OCE, and they will be sent to you. So, I mean, you can take pictures, of course, but you'll get them afterwards if ever you need. Jun, that's for you. Yes, you can use your mic, and if you want to be here, you can.
Hello. Can you hear me? Is it working? Okay.
Close from your mouth.
Okay, good. Thank you, and good morning, bonjour, and really nice to see familiar faces and also new friends and colleagues. So I'm representing here UNESCO, and Eric has very kindly introduced our work, and I'm here to to share the approach and observations, assessment that we are having within the UNESCO's context. So I prepared a short note, and I will speak around 5 minutes or so. So first of all, young people today are very much, of course, concerned by climate change, especially we saw some frightening information in Sophia's introduction. And another international study which targeted youth across the world, and these young people aged from 16 to 25, it actually found out that 59% of them are very or extremely worried about climate change, and more than 45% said their feelings about climate change negatively affect their daily life, and there is strong anxiety among young people. We have to recognize it, and not maybe only among young people, among ourselves as well. And the international community should work together to provide hope through education. And while advances in climate adaptation and mitigation, of course, we can observe some of the great progresses happening in many ways, there is a general consensus that we are not acting fast enough in every corner of the world, and everyone should feel concerned and engaged. And UNESCO works to support policymakers, teachers, and learners in addressing climate change through education. That's our job. And all learners, and also, of course, educators and parents, they all should be able to understand what is happening, feel concerned, and want to help, and finally take actions. UNESCO has now 194 countries. As you know, US is now returned. And many of our member states have already included climate change and concept and approach of sustainability into the education system in one way or another. And according to our own survey with our countries, 76% of the government said that they plan to review their curriculum and integrate climate change, biodiversity, and other sustainable development areas into the curriculum in the next coming 3 years. And also 87% of countries surveyed, they plan to green their teacher training. So this is really great to note this strong political will. But we also wanted to know what the young people think of the climate change education they are receiving. And a year ago, we conducted an international survey. We could mobilize more than 17,000 young people aged between 11 and 19 years old from 166 countries. And the results were quite alarming. 70% of them say that they cannot explain climate change or can only explain the very broad principles or do not know anything about it. And many said they want to learn what they can do, not only what it is. And young people are really claiming for more learner-centered, experiential and reflective ways of learning, and to make climate change education more fun, solution-based and action-oriented. And we clearly need to look into access to climate education, which is obviously not available everywhere, but also address the quality aspect. And in response to this young people's urge, UNESCO, together with our partners through the Greening Education Partnership, thank you very much, Eric, for presenting this. So I will not go into the detail of this partnership. This initiative was launched last year on the occasion of the UN Transforming Education Summit. And we are developing guidance material for our countries, but also education stakeholders to bring climate change into the real life situation through curriculum and also school quality standard, looking at many things, infrastructure, but also governance, teaching and learning quality aspect, and community engagement holistically. Here, I'm coming from the section which is called Education for Sustainable Development. I'm very honored to be next to my colleague Coralie, because France is one of the really proactive countries promoting this ESD, Education for Sustainable Development. It is a strategic approach in transforming the education so that it can address the multidimensional challenges of climate change. And we believe climate change education should not be a mere thematic ad hoc intervention, because everyone is talking about it, but it should be fully part of the quality and inclusive education, you know, SDG 4. And climate change is linked with other challenges such as biodiversity loss, and also increasing socioeconomic inequalities and unsustainable consumption and lifestyles. And this ESD aims to increase quality and relevance of learning so that all learners be equipped with knowledge, skills, values, and actions that are all necessary to understand the complexity of our world today, and especially, once again, to feel concerned and be willing to help resolve the problems and to take actions. And very quickly, UNESCO identified something called 8 critical competencies required for promoting sustainability in learning. They are not new, But let me still spell it out: anticipatory, collaboration, critical thinking, integrated problem solving, hello, normative, self-awareness, strategic and system thinking. And allow me to highlight maybe two of them, which I believe most important. First one is system thinking, and the ability to recognize, to understand relationships of what's happening, to analyze complex systems, to think of how systems are embedded within different domains and different scales, and especially to deal with uncertainty. And second competency, which looks important, is anticipatory competency, or maybe future orientation. And this is about the ability to anticipate the consequences of our actions, to plan the goals, and to think of the benefits and prejudices that their actions might produce on others and also on the environment. And in addition, it is very important to highlight, to develop learners' knowledge about scientific discussions. We discussed a little bit today already the role of scientific education, but also more cognitive ability of understanding and appraisal, perception of risks, and decision-making and complex problem-solving processes. And very quickly, sorry, I'm taking a bit of time.
Quickly, yes.
Yep. As of today, 80 countries and more than 1,000 stakeholders have already joined the Greening Education Partnership to share good practice and increase collaboration. And we really would like to work together to accelerate climate change education through greening schools, curriculum, teacher training, education policies, and also communities. And UNESCO will fully remain engaged to lead and also facilitate this ambitious but yet most needed intervention. So voilà, I just stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jun, for these first inputs. Thank you for Professor Maitafsir to join us. So I mean, we'll change the plan again, but we'll come back to this first round table. It should be okay. Just it's working. Coralie is a high-level official for sustainable development and ecological transition at the French Ministry of Youth and Education in Paris, and she's going just to make us her presentation in a few minutes, 5 to 7 minutes.
Merci. Bonjour à tous. Good morning everybody. I'm very glad to be here with you for this seminar, and I'm glad to represent the hosting country, France, and I represent the French government, which supports OCE from the very beginning, and more particularly I'm a member of the Ministry of Education and Youth, and which stood with OCE really from the very beginning. We were there for the agreement with UNESCO, and then we transferred also a teacher to contribute to OCE activities to develop pedagogical materials. And then we were joined by the Ministry of Ecology, and this is also a key, the strong connection, strong collaboration between ministries facing climate change. This is also an important key. The most important key probably is education of young people, young generations. And that's why our ministry is, from far ago, deeply involved into climate change education since the 70s, indeed.
Talking about education on children, is it okay for you? Because you've got children from the school we can hear. It's okay? Mm-hmm. Great, sorry. Go on, Corinne.
We must develop a continuity between the first age, from primary school to secondary school, and then to higher education. So this is a very big stake, and that's why we are developing a strong activities between ministries. And the responsibility of climate change education from 3 years old to 18 about is a competency of the Ministry of Education in France. And we developed a whole school approach, an integrated approach, holistic, relying on curricula and also on concrete pedagogical projects. This is a national policy, this is a national public policy in the framework of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This is a cross-cutting education built on all disciplines because this is absolutely essential to develop transversality, to develop interdisciplinarity on those stakes of climate change. We defined also steering people at all levels, national level, regional level, local level in the schools. That's really important. This is the key because you need people to steer this public policy at each level. The school curricula were reinforced several times in the 90s, then in 2000, and more recently in 2019, 2020. Deeply reinforced concerning climate and biodiversity, and more broadly sustainable development, from primary school to secondary school. This overall approach was developed through a labelization. This is a specific national tool, labelization of schools involved into a cross-cutting approach dealing with teaching and also with transforming the school building, transforming the school spaces towards more ecological transition, more sustainable development. And we developed eco-delegates. Eco-delegates are pupils, are students, who are responsible in each class in the secondary schools to develop concrete projects with other pupils, with help of teachers, obviously, and with help of external partners, because partnerships, this is also a key. And these eco-delegates are everywhere. They are about 250,000 people in the classes. And where we are, what are the next steps now? We published a guidance document on last June, a guidance document to foster ecological transition into schools with the participation of pupils. And on the same day, on last June, with the minister, we published a new national action plan. And this plan is entitled, is called The Schools as the First Place of Commitment and Implementation for Ecological Transition. And you see that, as I said before, we have two pillars, teaching and action. And this is closely connected in our view. And this new plan contains 20 measures that we are developing currently. The first pillar is on knowledge, understanding the stakes with a strong science basis, because that's really important. So we are developing a competency framework adapted from the UNESCO guidelines and adapted from the European guidelines.
Close to the mic, please.
EU Green Comp. Customized, yeah. And we are developing learning steps for teachers, operational learning steps adapted for each scholar level. And then we are developing training for teachers and also for all civil servants in France. In the following years, we will develop a teaching on ecological transition for all civil servants in France. And for our ministry, it concerns 1.2 million civil servants. This is to say the half of the French civil servants.
7 minutes, Coralie. So
yes.
just if you can finish.
And to finish, the second pillar is on commitment and action of pupils, of students, relying on actions of eco-delegates and so on. And the third pillar, third and final one, is on collective commitment, not also on individual commitment, but also collective commitment at school level, involving all parts of the school stakeholders. Everybody, and this includes the renovation also of buildings, of schools, because this is closely related with the development of concrete projects, making the link between renovation of buildings and teaching of pupils. So
thank you. Thank you, Coralie, for respecting the time. Thank you. So welcome to Professor Musa Garba Maitafsir. Just you've got another mic if you know. Thank you for coming from Nigeria. Just on time. Thank you. Musa Garba is coming from Nigeria. He's the director and chief executive of the National Teachers Institute, and is going to explain to us how climate change education has been integrated into the school curricula in Nigeria. And what about explain to us maybe a little about the Green Teachers Nigeria experience. You've got the floor for 5 to 7 minutes. Professor, you're welcome.
I say good morning to all.
It's working. Just keep it close from your mouth.
I'm
but
very
it's
sorry for coming late. The traffic was so tough, but I thank God that I'm around. Yes, I'm from the National Teachers Institute of Nigeria, called NTI, and the largest teacher training institute in the world. Yes.
latest.
We have 36 states in Nigeria, and NTI has offices in all the states. We have 607 centers, study centers in Nigeria. Our mandate is to train and retrain teachers at all levels, from the primary school teachers to the university lecturers, to upgrade them in the current issues in teaching and learning. So the issue of climate change, people that are here may not even know fully the adverse effect of the climate change in the world. Because of what we are facing in the climate change in Nigeria, about 7 states of the country now are becoming deserts because of the effect of climate change. That's the reason why the federal government is so much committed to anything to do with climate change education. And the coming in of the Green Teacher Nigeria, the NTI was found to be very, very useful, because we are the only institute that can go to any corner of the country, as we have 607 centers. We have more than 100,000 teachers being trained. So the Green Teacher Nigeria, just to cut it short, after telling them the effect, the advantage of coming in to develop our environment, so we have a policy that each and every student being trained by the NTI must plant 1 tree in a year. With this conception and motivation given to them, then we instructed them that when they go back to their own schools, they should also replicate by telling their students, each and every student or pupil should also plant a tree. So when you have over 1,000 in a year, times the number of their students in their different schools, how many millions are you having in a year? So this is what we have injected in the teachers. So to make it a functional, we also introduced a system where we formulated a formula, which is 1 is equals to 1, 1, 6 of 8. This is the formula. 1 is equals to 1, comma, 1 and 6 of 8. Meaning whatever you teach chemistry, you teach physics, you teach social studies, then 6/8 of the time must be for that subject content. 1/8 must be on climate change education. 1/8 must be on moral development. The reason why we have these three things, 6/8 for the subject matter, chemistry, physics, mathematics, what. Then 1/8 for climate change, because it's a serious problem in some part of the country. Then 1/8 must be on moral development because of the crisis we have in our environment. And what we inject in the 1/8 of moral development is, if one would take knife to direct the knife to me, how will I feel? Then why should I take also a knife or a gun to direct someone? Then for the climate change, since this is our subject, we are putting it in a case that if care is not taken, there will be a time when you will never find a single tree in our environment. But over 100,000 teachers, with their millions of pupils and students, planting trees in 10 years' time, then the trees that will be found in most part of the country will be counting in billions. Pardon? We started it last year. Last year. So this is, in short, this is our message. And this is what we are driving at. And we are working seriously to formulate. We developed curriculum for climate change education that is being used in teacher training. And in this teacher training, we have a radio and TV programs for teachers because our own is distance learning. So by distance learning, we send this message to them by way of advocacy. And this is the content of what NTI is putting in place for the development of climate change education, with the full support from the Green Teacher Nigeria and the federal government. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your input. So I will have a few questions to ask you. For this roundtable, there will be no question from the audience. You will have some in the next roundtable. So we're just going to exchange for the 12 minutes, for the 14 minutes we've got. So I had a question for you, Jun. According to you, what knowledge, skills, or even values, because we talked about values as well, are more important to develop among learners? Is there any good practice to be developed, to your mind? Yeah, it should be okay.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, thank you for the question and also for the presentations. I also got inspired and confirms a little bit of what I'm trying to say now. I think I already highlighted some core competencies such as future orientation or system thinking, but what is maybe very important is nonetheless the nature connectedness. Like you, I was also very curious how to inform the pro-sustainability behavior, and I did my psychology study. And I found out that there are a lot of interesting studies which prove that nature interconnectedness has somehow the relationships with the pro-sustainability attitude. And how to grow this nature connectedness. Of course, maybe kids, they are lucky, they have a nice garden, but in many locations, they may not necessarily have this direct contact with the natural world. And we also came to see a lot of interesting practices, really to taking the learning to the field. Just like as you said, tree planting is one of the most cited kind of good practices, especially in many African countries. And using the tree seed and to grow it and to look after it for a certain number of months and years, that can also teach about how to collaborate, but also it comes with the scientific knowledge. And the forest can contain CO2, photosynthesis, right? Yeah, I'm also learning. Huh?
Exactly.
A lot of things can come together, but doing something really concrete and you can see the result of what you are doing is most important approach. And also another thing that UNESCO, and also myself being part of UNESCO, it's very important to give opportunities to all learners to have the multicultural kind of learning opportunities, such as this international seminar, and really to address the common issue as the global citizen of this planet is the most effective way also to really more engage those people who are not maybe necessarily interested in knowing more. So these are the things I would say, not specifically on the substance of climate change education per se, but I think we also need to prepare those, enable factors to make it interesting and engaging. Voilà. Thank you.
Thank you. It's quite interesting what you say, and what finally Eric and Pierre was saying, talking about mindsets and the heart. I don't remember what you said. Hopeful hearts. You are talking about. This brings me to a question about eco-anxiety. Because to your mind, I mean, the question would be to all of three, but short for all of three to can. Do you think eco-anxiety is a topic that is or should be addressed in climate change education? I mean, from what I've heard, got the impression maybe it's something we shouldn't pass off. What's your idea about it? Coralie, maybe?
From our mind, in the Ministry of Education, we think that eco-anxiety should be addressed through action, through pedagogical projects. Because when you act, you are dealing directly with the problem, and you are involved. That's really important. That's the way we develop concrete projects with eco-delegates, pupils, on all the students.
Okay, so not talking about the emotions, but acting. I mean, from what you explained. Jun, what would be your...
It's obviously possible to deal with emotional aspects, but this is not specifically linked to climate change, in fact. When you deal with a lot of difficult issues, and there are more. The teachers are used to deal with particular difficult issues with their students. So this is not so specific because when they address some other global issues from our world, this is the same.
Okay, thank you.
Jun?
It's okay.
Very important to. Can you hear me? I don't. Okay, sorry. In my view, and also through our discussions with a lot of young people and teachers, it's very important to secure this safe space for addressing also the emotions. And in many locations, it's not still safe to talk about climate change. And in some countries, it's a bit of politicized topic, unfortunately. So there is a bit of a burden obstacle to, before even engaging learners and teachers, it's very important to think of, maybe this is also the role of the policy makers to really to secure the safe space once again to dialogue, to address all the emotions, anxiety. And then we could also, of course, discuss how to address those emotions. And once again, nature also has this healing power. And of course, we have been maybe doing a lot of harmful things to nature, but bringing kids to the outer world in the nature, that is
it's
also a way of making a bit of the click.
Do you have a reaction to that?
Well, for us, we try to be so local and to be motivational, because naturally, when you ask someone to do something without a motivating factor, he may do it when you are around, but when you are not there, it may not be done. So bringing the danger of especially desertification, for example, when almost many people in 7 states are suffering from that problem, and to see that the effect of our, let's say, sensitization on the need to have a change in the environment so that the environment will be conducive for our survival, we try to go back down, because most of the people we train, most of them are Muslims. So we try to go back to the precept in the Islamic religion, when Prophet said, if you are able to plant one tree, as long as that tree exists forever, you will even after you are dead, you will continue to have reward. So with that motivational issue, many are now not even thinking of planting trees because we want them to plant trees. But they are planting trees now just to earn rewards even after they are dead. So with that motivational issue, we've penetrated them and we are getting a better result. Thank you.
Since I was just thinking, because since Office for Climate Education intervenes all around the world, maybe we would have a question for the OCE, maybe Eric or maybe David. I would be interested in knowing if you found an exemplary model in terms of climate change education. Do we have like some states maybe at the forefront of climate change education? Or have you found maybe a miracle recipe about climate change education? I don't know, maybe David, you could answer the question?
Okay, let's try.
Can you get up for everybody to see you?
Sorry. Okay. Can you see me and hear me? Okay. That's difficult to distribute good points and bad points to the country. Every system is different and every context is different. And we have already heard about good examples here in France and in Nigeria. Maybe if I have to say a few words about some countries. Kenya has been very often cited as an example of very strong integration of ESD, Education for Sustainable Development.
Thank you.
With a holistic approach on curriculum, on teacher preparedness, on education materials, on promoting projects in schools and so on. Now there is a new challenge, is how to come from ESD to CCE, meaning climate education. So what we need is really this holistic approach that is promoted through the Green Education Partnership with the curricula, teacher preparedness, communities, traditional cultures and knowledge also is very important. Linking climate education with also girl empowerment in all the societies. But this is something we are working on, especially for a new project in Africa with our partners here. Maybe I could say a word about California, because we have a partner here. Where are you, Claudia? Here. If you want more information, I advise you to speak with Claudia, because California is really at the forefront of this activity. It's astonishing how deep this climate education has been integrated from the very young to the university levels. Integrating all this approach on resources, on curricula, on teacher preparedness, on support, linking climate with inequalities and also all the other cultural and social issues and so on. Maybe, yeah, if I have to cite one country, it's one state, let's say, California could be a good example.
Miracle recipe, maybe, a way of how, I mean, what would be an ideal climate change education? Do you have a clue about that?
Well, actually, all the speakers before me already gave a lot of ideas. But yeah, being scientifically sounded, this is very important, scientifically rooted, because climate system is a scientific subject. But we don't have to stick to science. We have to integrate what Pierre called humanities, so human and social sciences. For me, there is something that is very important, is also to work on the narratives. There is a disconnection between what we aim the students to understand, what is a good behavior, let's say, with quotes, and the kind of models that they are confronted to with the media, with the football players, with the singers, etc., who very often represents people who overconsume and have a way of life that is completely opposite to what they learn to be the good way of living. So what we need is to build new narrative, new stories that draw a desirable future, but also without this over-consumption and so on. So bridging this gap, this cognitive and emotional gap, I think it's important.
Thank you. Thank you for this input. I would like to go on a lot longer, but I can see it's 11. Do you have people needing a coffee? Okay, so I'm sorry. I mean, I would have liked to ask a few more questions, but I can see that we started a bit late, and because I want us to stay in the time, because we've got many things to approach. We're going to stop it for the moment, and I'm going to leave you for 15 minutes. Okay, you've understood. You know, I've got to watch. Okay, so please just thank you for all the participants, and come back here in 15 minutes. Thank you for the panelists.